My husband said, I want the divorce on Tuesday, and don't make it weird with my friends. I said, okay. Then I married his best friend on Wednesday. I'm 31. Dean and I had been married 4 years when he told me over a Sunday sandwich. He said it plain, between bites, like he was reading off a receipt. I've been thinking, and I think we should get divorced. I already called a lawyer. We can sign Tuesday. I set my fork down. The crust of his bread was untouched. He always left the crust. Tuesday? Yeah, I cleared my afternoon. It's mostly paperwork. I asked if there was someone else. He said no. He just hadn't felt it in a long time. And that honestly I should have noticed by now. Then he said the part I keep coming back to. The group is going to make it weird, so do me a favor and don't turn it into drama. They're my friends. You kind of came in through me. I had known every one of them for 4 years. I threw their birthday parties. I drove Owen to the emergency room the night his appendix burst and sat in the waiting room until 4 in the morning. I made the soup when Ruweri's father died. But to Dean, they were his property, and I was a house guest who had stayed too long. I said, okay. He looked relieved. He patted my hand like I had agreed to move a dinner reservation. That weekend he packed his half of the apartment. He told me to keep the couch because it didn't fit his new place anyway. He kept the good knives. He took the dog to his mother Sky's until things settle and never brought her back. He texted me a list of which friends he was keeping and which ones I was still allowed to talk to, like he was splitting a record collection. Tuesday came. Dean brought Owen to the signing for support, meaning his own. Owen sat in the hallway looking like he wanted to be anywhere else. We signed. Dean was cheerful about it. He thanked the lawyer on the way out for making it painless. In the parking lot, he checked his phone, smiled at something on it, and said he had to run. He had plans. He asked Owen to drive me home. He handed me off, like a coat he was done wearing. I got into Owen's car. We sat a second. He didn't start the engine. Then Owen said, I have to tell you something, and I should have said it a long time ago. He told me Dean had been seeing someone for months. Her name was Iris. He'd met her at a conference in June. He told me Dean had joked about the divorce at poker, called the marriage a bad investment he was trimming, and that the guys had laughed along. He told me he had hated watching it. Then he said the rest, quietly, that he had thought about me for longer than a best friend should admit out loud, and had kept his mouth shut for Dean's sake. I didn't say anything for a minute. I watched a woman across the lot loading groceries into her trunk. Then I asked him if he was free Wednesday. He looked at me. Then he nodded, slow, like he was deciding something. Wednesday afternoon, we went to the courthouse. No party, no guests, except Owen's sister Marley, who stood as our witness and cried the good kind of crying. The clerk asked if we were sure. We both said yes at the same time. It was fast and it was real, and I knew exactly what I was doing, and so did he. We weren't getting back at anyone. We were two people who had been standing next to each other for 4 years, and finally turned to look. Owen called Dean himself afterward and told him straight. By Thursday morning, Dean was calling me. I let the first one ring out. Then I answered the second, calm, the way you answer a stranger. Hey Dean, you married Owen? On a Wednesday? You said Tuesday was for the divorce. Wednesday was open. He's my best friend, since we were 9 years old. I know. You told me they were your friends. I only kept one. He started yelling about loyalty, about how everyone would see it as a revenge stunt. I let him finish. Dean, I said, you sat there with a sandwich in your hand and told me 4 years was a bad investment. You handed me off in a parking lot because you had a date that night. I didn't take anything. You said it on the curb. He went quiet. Then he tried a different angle. The guys are on my side. Nobody is going to talk to you again. That's fine, I said. I married the only one I wanted to talk to. He showed up at Owen's place that evening, our place now, banging on the door like he still had a claim to something behind it. Owen opened it. Dean stood in the hallway looking at Owen, then at me, then at the ring on my hand. How long has this been going on behind my back? Owen didn't get loud. Nothing was going on. You divorced your wife on Tuesday and told me to drive her home, so I drove her home. That's the whole story. Dean turned to me. You did this to hurt me. That's all this is. No, I said. I did it on Wednesday because you did that on Tuesday. The part where it hurts you was free. He opened his mouth to fire back, and then his phone rang in his hand. He glanced down at the name, and something in his face dropped. He muttered something about handling it later, and left without closing the door. Owen and I knew that wasn't the end. Dean doesn't lose quietly. He rewrites the story until he's the victim, so we got ahead of it. That night we sat at the counter with our phones and the real list. Every person in that friend group. All 8 of them. Not Dean's list, the one he texted me telling me who I was allowed to keep. I didn't beg. I didn't cry. I didn't ask anyone to pick a side. I told them plain, the same way Dean told me. Dean had been seeing someone for months. He'd joked about the divorce at poker. He'd called the marriage a bad investment, and the guys laughed. I let them sit with it. Some got quiet, some asked questions. None of them hung up on me. Owen called Ruweri first. Ruweri had been at that poker game. Owen put him on speaker so I could hear, and after a minute of small talk, he asked it straight. Did you laugh when he called our marriage a bad investment? The line went quiet. I could hear Ruweri breathing. Then he said, I didn't laugh, but I didn't say anything either. That's worse, and I know it. He kept going. I saw how he treated her. I watched it for years. He'd talk over her at dinner. He'd make little jokes about her cooking or her job, and nobody called him on it because that's just what we did. We let Dean run things. He picked the restaurants. He picked the plans. He decided who was in and who was out. I'm not picking Dean's side. Not after what I watched and said nothing about. Owen thanked him and hung up. I could see something loosen in his shoulders. But while we were making our calls, Dean was making his. He was calling the same people. Sometimes minutes after we did, sometimes before. In his version, Owen had been sneaking behind his back for months. In his version, I planned the wedding as revenge. A calculated move to humiliate him. Dean wasn't yelling on those calls. He was sad. He performed sadness like a part he'd been rehearsing all week. His voice cracked at the right moments. I just feel so blindsided. I trusted them both more than anyone. If you didn't know the real story, you'd believe him. That's what Dean was good at. He could walk into any room and make it his. Around 9, Kyung texted. Dean just called me. He was crying. He told me you and Owen were having an affair the whole time. Is that true? I typed back one line. If I was having an affair, why did he look relieved when I signed the papers? The 3 dots appeared and disappeared. Then Kyung called me. He did look relieved, she said, quiet, like she was remembering something she hadn't let herself think about before. A few weeks before he told you, he took me to coffee and said it like he was returning a jacket. He was smiling. I remember thinking that was weird, but I didn't say anything because Dean always seemed to have everything figured out, so I just assumed the smile meant it was the right call. I said, said, he told me I should have noticed sooner, like it was my fault for not reading his mind. Kyung said, that sounds like him. Make you feel dumb for trusting him, and then act like he did you a favor by leaving. She said she was done taking his calls. By Thursday night, the group was cracking, but not the way Dean planned. 3 had gone quiet on him, 2 college guys were still firmly in his corner. The rest were doing the math, and the math wasn't adding up. Then Owen's phone buzzed with a text from Marley. He read it, and his face changed. He turned the phone toward me. Dean came to see me today. He sat in my living room for an hour. He cried. He told me you're making the biggest mistake of your life. He asked me to talk you out of it. I read it 3 times. Dean went to Marley. Dean sat in Owen's sister's dining room and cried and asked her to turn Owen against his own marriage. Owen's jaw tightened. He said, quiet, he's not fighting us. He's trying to take everything I have left. We drove to Marley's the next morning. She lived 20 minutes outside the city. She opened the door before we knocked. She hugged Owen. Then she hugged me. She wasn't cold. She was careful. She poured coffee and folded her hands on the table. I need to hear it from both of you. Not what Dean said. Not what anyone said. From you. Owen told her everything. He didn't rush it. He told her he never touched me while I was married. Kept his mouth shut for years because Dean was his best friend. And he thought that was what loyalty looked like. That the parking lot was the first time he ever said it out loud. I told her about the sandwich. About the list. About the parking lot. About the dog being taken to Skies and never coming back. I married Owen because for 4 years he was the only one in that group who ever asked me how I was doing and actually waited for the answer. Marley nodded, tearing up. Then she said the thing that made my stomach go cold. Dean told me you called Sky and screamed at her on the phone. He said you threatened to take the dog by force. He said it happened Wednesday night while you 2 were at the courthouse. The air left the room. I never called Sky. I never threatened anyone. Owen's face went hard. She's been with me every day since Tuesday. Marley said, I believe you. But Dean was convincing. He had details. That's when I understood what Dean did. He timed the fake call to the exact window when we had no alibi because we were busy getting married. He built the lie with corners and edges so it would fit into the gaps we couldn't fill. Marley reached across the table and squeezed my hand. I'm your witness. I know what I saw. But Dean is not done. He's building a case. Not a legal one. A social one. She was right. Dean wanted every person to hear the word unstable and think of me. He wanted them picturing me screaming at an old woman, threatening to take a dog by force. If I was the crazy ex-wife, then Dean was the reasonable man who got out just in time. The dog was the perfect tool for it because Dean knew exactly what she meant to me. He'd watched me pick her out. He'd watched me train her, walk her every morning, fall asleep with her curled against my legs. He didn't take her because he loved her. He took her because I did. He gave her to Sky like she was a piece of furniture he was storing, and used her as a leash to keep me tethered to his side of the story. I looked at Owen. I want to go see Sky. Tomorrow. I'm going to ask for my dog back. Calm. And let her see for herself that the woman Dean described doesn't exist. Owen said, I'll drive. Marley said, I'm coming. If he's telling people you're dangerous, you show up with witnesses. Saturday afternoon, we drove to Sky's in Marley's car. I hadn't been to this house since before the divorce. The driveway looked the same. The front porch still had the wooden bench Dean helped Sky build one summer. I could hear barking from inside and my chest got tight. Marley parked and we all sat there a second. Owen looked at me. You ready? I nodded. We walked up together. Sky opened the door and her face went from confused to cold in half a second. You brought her here? After what she did to my son? Owen said calm. What did she do, Sky? She broke his heart and married his best friend to humiliate him, and she called me screaming on the phone Wednesday night. I stepped forward, not aggressive, just close enough that she had to look at me. Sky, I never called you. Not Wednesday. Not any day. You can check your phone right now. There's no call from me. She hesitated. I watched something move behind her eyes. Not anger, confusion. She genuinely believed it happened. Dean had told his own mother a story so convincing she remembered a call that never took place. The dog kept barking from the back. Sky said, quiet. He told me you were unstable. He told me you threw things at him when he asked for the divorce. I shook my head. I said okay. That's what I said. Ask Owen. He was there for the signing. I didn't raise my voice once. Owen backed me up. She didn't. She was calmer than Dean was. He was the one who looked relieved it was over. Marley stood behind us, silent, solid. Sky looked between us, then back into her own house like she was weighing something heavy. She pulled her phone out of her pocket. She looked at the screen. She scrolled. She didn't say anything for a long beat. Then she said, there's no call. Wednesday or any other day. She paused. He told me not to give you the dog back. He said if you came, I should call him first and not let you inside. But he also told me the divorce was mutual and you were fine with it. Now I'm hearing 3 different stories and none of them match. I kept my voice steady. I just want my dog, Sky. She stared at me a long moment. Then she opened the door wider and stepped aside. She's in the back room. She sleeps on Dean's old jacket. She misses you. I walked in and the dog came running and jumped on me and wouldn't stop licking my face. I sat down right there on the floor holding her and I cried for the first time since the sandwich. Owen knelt beside me. Marley stood in the doorway and Sky stood across the room with a look on her face I'd never seen before. Shame. She said quiet, almost to herself. He lied to me too, didn't he? It wasn't a question. She said, take her. She's yours. She was always yours. Marley grabbed the leash off the hook. At the doorway, Sky stopped us. I raised him better than this, or I thought I did. She looked at Owen. You're a good man. You always were. I'm sorry it took me this long to say it. Sunday morning, Owen's phone buzzed. A group text from Dean to all 8 people, including us. Long, careful, every word chosen. He'd been reflecting. He was worried about Owen. He thought I had manipulated Owen during a vulnerable moment. The speed of everything, courthouse, ring, moving in, showed someone being pressured into a decision he wasn't ready for. He asked everyone to meet at a restaurant Friday night to talk about it as a group, face to face, the way we've always handled things. Owen read it twice. His face was blank, which I had learned meant furious. He's trying to put me on trial, in front of everyone. Dean had picked the restaurant. He set the time. He framed the reason. By doing all of that, he made himself the host and everyone else the audience. I told Owen I didn't want to go. We didn't owe anyone an explanation. Owen shook his head. If we don't go, he wins the room. He tells everyone we were too guilty to show up. That becomes the story. The empty chairs. Rueri called that afternoon. Dean's been rehearsing. He's got a whole speech. He's going to play the heartbroken best friend, not the angry ex-husband. That's the version people want to believe because it's it's easier. Nobody has to feel bad about laughing at his jokes if he's the victim. Kyung called that night. I'm coming Friday. He picks the restaurant. He picks the topic. He picks who gets to talk. You show up and you break that pattern. That's all you have to do. I asked her if she thought people would actually listen, or if their minds were already made up. She was quiet. Some of them already decided. You're not going to change their minds. But the ones who haven't decided yet are watching to see who stays calm and who falls apart. So don't fall apart. Friday at 6:50 we walked in. The restaurant was the kind of place Dean always picked. Low lighting and wood tables and a menu with too many options. The kind of room where he could hold court. Dean at the head of the table, Rueri at the far end, arms crossed, watching the door, Kyung in the middle, calm, hands folded. Two of Dean's college guys flanking him. The rest looked uncomfortable. Dean saw us and his face did a thing. Half a second of surprise we'd actually come. Then he reset to sad concerned and stood up. I'm glad you came, he said to Owen. Not me. Like I was furniture Owen had dragged along. Owen pulled out a chair for me, waited until I was seated, then sat beside me, shoulder to shoulder. The table went quiet, the heavy kind of quiet where everyone is looking at their hands or their water glass. Dean cleared his throat and started talking, and he talked for a long time, smooth and measured, every sentence laying a brick. He said we'd grown apart, which was a nice way of saying he stopped caring and expected me not to notice. He said he'd handled the divorce with respect, which was a nice way of saying he told me over a sandwich. He wasn't angry, he wanted everyone to hear that. He was hurt. He was hurt his best friend didn't wait, didn't call, didn't give him a chance to process. He thought I was going through something, and Owen was too close to see it. His eyes were wet, just wet enough, never quite crying, just that shine that makes people lean in. He was good at this. I'd watched him do it for 4 years and never saw it clearly until I was on the other side. One loyalist, the college friend, was nodding like Dean was reading scripture. The other had his arms crossed, but his face was open, buying it. Dean finished. He let the silence land. Then he looked at Owen, his face softening. I just want my friend back, man. That's all I want. The table waited. Everyone looked at Owen. This was the moment Dean had built toward, where Owen was supposed to crack under 20 years. Owen let the silence sit. He let it get uncomfortable. Then his voice came calm and plain. You called our marriage a bad investment at poker. You laughed about it. You told the guys before you told your wife. Dean blinked. Fast. But I saw it. That's not what happened, Dean said. Tighter now, like a rope just got pulled. Owen turned his head and looked at Rueri. The whole table followed his eyes. Rueri cleared his throat. It is what happened. His voice was quiet, but it carried like a bell. I was there. You said, cutting my losses, and you were smiling when you said it. Dean's jaw shifted. Rueri didn't look away. He'd said what happened in front of everyone, and now it was in the room like a piece of furniture that couldn't be moved. Then I spoke. I didn't plan it. I said it the way Dean said it to me over the sandwich. Plain, calm, factual, like I was reading items off a list everyone already knew was true. You told me on a Sunday that 4 years was over. You told me on a Tuesday not to make it weird with your friends. You texted me a list of who I was allowed to keep talking to. You took my dog to your mother's and never brought her back. You told your mother I called her screaming. I never called her. You told Marley I threatened Sky. I never threatened anyone. Sky gave me the dog back on Saturday because she checked her phone and there was no call. You had someone else for months. Her name is Iris. Owen told me. You told Owen. You bragged about it. The table was dead silent. The kind of silent that happens when a room full of people all realize at the same time that they're hearing something that can't be argued with. Dean's mask broke. Not cracked. Broke. His voice went tight and sharp, loud enough that a few people at nearby tables glanced over. This is exactly what I'm talking about. She's turning everyone against me. This is what she does. That was when Kyung spoke. She hadn't said a word all night. Her voice was quiet, but it cut through Dean's noise like a knife through paper. Dean, when you told me about the divorce, you were smiling. You said it was the easiest thing you ever did. Those are your words. I wrote them down because something about it bothered me. The room shifted. I felt it happen. The college loyalist shifted in his seat and looked at Dean with a different face than 5 minutes ago. Not angry, just confused, like the picture on the box didn't match what was inside. The other one studied the wood grain. Dean looked around the room face by face, searching for what he always found. Someone who would back him up. He didn't find it. Not in Rueri at the far end, not in Kyung, not in the two in the middle who were looking at him the way you look at someone you're seeing clearly for the first time, not even in his loyalists, who couldn't meet his eyes. Dean stood. The chair scraped. He pointed at Owen. His hand shook. You were supposed to be my brother. His voice cracked. Owen met his eyes. He didn't stand. He didn't lean forward. He didn't raise his voice. He said, and she was supposed to be your wife. You didn't treat her like it. I will. Dean stood breathing hard. His eyes swept the table one last time. Nobody spoke. Nobody said, Dean, wait. He grabbed his jacket, shoved his arms in, walked to the door. He stopped, turned, and looked at me. I didn't look away. I didn't smile. I gave him nothing. He looked for a long time. Then he walked out. The whole table exhaled at once. Rueri picked up his menu. So, are we ordering? Tuesday morning I poured coffee. The dog ate by the stove. My ring caught the light. Owen kissed my temple on his way out. I didn't think of Dean.